asset and your purchase is an investment. So consumers are investors in that sense, and the group that co-invested together, once they sell it, they get the same proportion of proceeds. And NFT marketplaces and marketplaces overall, like Otis and Sneakers, are already doing that. So this one has already taken off, and it's going to evolve even further and go into physical. Imagine if you own a Chanel handbag of $100,000 and you don't want to wear it because you don't like it, but it's a great investment, and you share it with others. And then finally, we are in a domain of the intangibles, owning images that are connected on a blockchain through tokens, through the code. And in this sense, today, in order for us to participate in the economy, we don't even need to own this Chanel bag. We can take a photo of a bag and post it on Instagram. Our status signaling is going to be the same. The same goes for experiences. People don't need to be in Cannes. They can repost someone's photo. They're like, hey. Or they don't need to even like services. You don't need to have access to a service in order to say that you do. All those grounded private jets, they're like being rented per hour for Instagram sessions. So in this economy, this is really continuation of the visual culture that we're seeing now. That basically memes, references, logos, GIFs. That's what's consumed and exchanged. You don't really, again, need to own the actual item. I was like in London a few weeks back at Selfridges, and I wanted to buy this winter jacket. It got sold out, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. I took a photo. I posted it on Instagram. It's already happened. I already own it. So this is kind of that next level that allows us, thanks to cryptocurrency and blockchain, to basically own images. For brands, the opportunities are multiple. Imagine complementing your physical collection with NFTs in order to test demand or create collectibles, to connect your physical products with their NFT counterparts, for example, or to collaborate just in this image domain. So I'm excited to see how this all pans out, and with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Belen, actually the clicker.
Thank you, Anna. You'll see how all these different topics fit really well together. Take it away, Belen.
Thank you. So, Belen Frau, head of Crib. Whoops, this is not anyway.
Yeah, synthetic AI. I mean, this is like I wonder what you're gonna get.
I'm actually the head of global comms of Inca, which is the biggest franchisee of IKEA.
Where do you work? Tell me again.
I'm the head of global communications of Inca, which is the bigger franchisee of IKEA, furnishing home furnishing dreams in millions of homes around the globe. So today, from the future of ownership, we will go into the future of purposeful brands, what I'm going to talk about. Here behind me, you have Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA. And IKEA is quite unique because of many things, but one of the things that is unique for is because it has a clear purpose from the very beginning. So it's already in 1976 that Ingvar, our founder, wrote this manifesto that was called The Testament of a Furniture Dealer, where he clearly stated what was our vision, and that is to create an everyday better life for the many people. And it sounds very simple, but it's actually very ambitious. So this is the purpose that has guided us through all these decades to be who we are, but it's also the purpose that is like in the foundation of our culture and values, and that guides our decisions in the everyday. And that means that it's also shaping us and the way that we are addressing the future, because, you know, when it comes to dilemmas and think about how do we want to be and how do we want to show up in the future, this is the question that we make to ourselves. You know, if it's good for the many people, if it really creates a better everyday life for the many people, then it must be right? So it's really what guides us. And the purpose at the end is the ultimate why, right? And in the moment that we are living, where we were just talking before, with all the challenges that we have, pandemic, geopolitics, climate, the sense of purpose is more needed than ever. So our customers are saying it more and more. Consumers say, I don't only buy from brands, I buy brands. I want to know what stands behind the brands. And also employees so he become more loyal when they feel that they work for a purpose, right? So that's why I have a firm belief that in the future, the purposeful brands, only those that can have a genuine interest for the customer and a really strong people agenda, with a purpose underpin are the ones that will thrive. And this is why today I wanted to talk to you about how I see the formula in the future, because I really believe that the future of purposeful brands is unifying these 4 P's. So it is purpose, profit, people, and passion. And this is how I have summarized the new 4 P's. I took the license to do this because I really believe that these 4 elements, when they play all together, they really add value. And in a moment where products and services are becoming more a commodity, to really have a USP and a unique value proposition, we need to combine all the elements. And it also opens up the doors for new creativity in a moment that creativity is so important, right? So beyond the functional benefits of the product. So just a few words in each one of the pieces. Purpose, as I said, is the ultimate why, and it is, I mean, there's a lot of research that tell us that when a company or when a brand really has a positive impact on the people and the planet, it generates trust and it generates growth, therefore. And then we know that when there is trust, the employees are double as loyal to the company, and also there is a propensity to buy from consumers that is like 14% higher. Therefore, it's very clear that the purpose is like the big P in the formula of going forward. Then is profit. Without profit, nothing is possible. Profit is the way that we make our purpose a reality, because profit gives us the resources for that. So to be a humanistic brand or to be a humanistic company, the first thing that we need is to create, to be healthy, to create profit, to be able to take long-term decisions and to be able to take the purpose to a reality. So I really believe that profit is it goes with purpose and purpose goes with profit, and it is about showing that it is a good business to be a good business. So it's actually profitable also to have your purpose embedded in everything you do. Then we come to passion, and there you see a 3D meatball that we use for recruiting the tech employees. And passion is about how do we unleash the creativity, the innovation. It's also about commitment, and it really I think it comes with, it gives a sense to all the effort and to all the persistence that we have in the brands. Without passion and without people, nothing is possible. And passion is really unlocking that extra mile. And that takes me to people who are for sure at the core, and it's people who make the difference. It's not digital, it's not tech, it's not data, it's not products, it's people that have the passion, and it's people that make the difference. So I really believe that the brands should be, all of us should be, of course, data driven, but people powered, because it's people that make the difference. And it's the companies that manage to attract and retain the best talent, the ones that will thrive in the future. So this is a little bit the 4 ingredients of the, you said, actionable insights. So when we fast forward in the next 18 months, but starting today, I really believe that the companies that will be successful are the ones that manage to be purposeful, 100%, consistently purposeful, and that the purpose is really leading every decision, everything that the company does. Because the world is going to continue to challenge us for sure, and the customers become, or the consumers become more and more demanding. So this is requiring an extra agility and an extra adaptability from the brands and from the organizations, and that is only possible when we have the passion to stay curious and we have the obsession to be, I say, customer fanatics, because it goes beyond listening to the customers, but for sure with combining the 4 elements of being passionate, but being people-oriented, and being generating profit, staying curious to generate profit, and really delivering to the purpose. So thanks for listening, and I really hope that this simple recipe can help you to future-proof your organization. And now I leave to you.
Emily.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's see what job title I have. So, no, I'm definitely not that person. So I'm glad that you skipped. So I don't have slides, right? I don't have slides. First I'll tell you who I am, and then I'll explain why I have this awfulness behind me. My name is Emily Ross, and I am head of Next for Twitter EMEA. And Next is a team of brand strategists, technologists, and creatives, and we help create ideas worth talking about for the world's best brands. And so when they asked me to come here today to talk about the future of social shopping, and we were invited to create a mood board. This is my mood board. It's pretty hideous. It's not pretty. And that's because the next 18 months are not going to be pretty. And that's okay, because you know what? There's opportunity in everything. Did you know that you're statistically more likely to complete Navy SEAL training or survive a plane crash than intentionally click on a banner ad? Oh, and by the way, can I just say, fair play to all of you coming out. It's hot. I am so glad you're here. I'm going to try and give you insights that are actionable because I appreciate the fact that you're standing here in this heat. Also, I wore a suit because I also want to impress you and I'm really hot. But thank you so much for being here. Right, he is also feeling the heat. We all are. So you know, the very first display ad went live on hotwired.com back in 1994. It's right there, top left-hand corner. So Wired.com today, that ad got a click-through rate of 44%. You fast forward to today, and you're probably going to get something like 0.02%. Channel burnout is real. Andrew Chen, when he coined the law of shitty click-through rates back in 2012, when he was head of growth, rider growth at Uber, the premise of this law is that the more you use a tactic at scale, the less effective it's going to be. We all know this in our bones. Like, we know that tactics of yesterday have diminishing returns, and yet we continue to spend on the things that we knew used to work. 4 years ago, display advertising in the US hit $100 billion, and it's still going up. That's bonkers. If something is delivering less and less, why are we still using it? I believe we are at an inflection point for shopping, and it's been brought about by myriad inputs. Massive societal upheaval, multiple lockdowns driven by the pandemic, and also, incredibly, unforeseeable acceleration in technology, not least of which is in e-commerce and last mile. How and where we shop has drastically changed. But right now, brand itself is under threat. In the latest Havas brand survey, which talked to, I think, 375,000 people, trust was at an all-time low. Every time that survey comes out, they say trust is lower than ever, but it's continuing to decline. And 71% of people surveyed said they didn't trust brands to deliver on their promises, which is why it's so nice to share a stage with IKEA. And side note, I'm going to still keep it in the 5 minutes, but years ago when I was head of corporate fundraising with UNICEF in Ireland, I got to see IKEA come to Dublin. And that was maybe 12 years ago, and they were so committed to sustainability, so committed to their values. They were using rainwater to flush toilets, and they were so focused on every aspect of sustainability, and it was before it was the hot topic. So I'm so proud to be on stage with a brand that is so committed. Where was I? Oh yeah, side tangent. Okay, so I've given you lots of data and facts and stats. What do we know, and what can we infer? Display advertising is delivering diminishing returns. The old models are on fire, and not in a good way. And the cookie is crumbling. And with every crumb, we are getting further and further away from our customer. And trust, which matters more than ever, is harder to earn. I believe we are going to see the slow and inevitable death of reach and frequency buying as a means to build shopping brands. The future is not programmatized. It's not going to be possible to drive success or growth using the same old media plans that are simple to explain and easy to sell. They're not going to be in traditional influencer playbooks where we see people that we recognize shill products with the latest dance move or selfie. It's not going to be in the latest lens or filter. It will, however, be found live and public on platforms where brands can be real, authentic, genuine, vulnerable, and conversational. Conversation is the currency of the future of shopping. Authentic conversation at scale is where we need to focus in the next 18 months. And brands that move away from outdated tactics and lean into authentic conversations at scale will future-proof themselves in a very uncertain future. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Emily, and thank all three of you. They're only given 5 minutes to present their case, and I think they did a wonderful job and really got a lot of points across. However, I think we can drill a little deeper into this. And I agree with you on so many points of what you said, Emily. It's all of you, actually. It's difficult. We have to change a lot of the way we're thinking. Consumers are far more fickle and also, frankly, kind of tired of advertisers or of brands reaching out to them constantly with messages that I don't necessarily think they understand. But that's also exciting. It's not just a problem. This is great. A lot of new products, a lot of new connections are going to be connected, and a lot of innovation is going to be there. So, obviously it's hard, but a little bit more kind of going back into the practical. How do you then, and not just your own brands, like how do you create these connections with consumers? How do you gauge their attention? If you can't use banner ads anymore, well, I personally, and we're not going to talk about that, I represent an industry that you don't have to, I mean, it's not signage, right? You can do that, but how do you build these connections? How do you build brands, and how do you build brands that are sustainable, not just from an environmental perspective, but over time, that resonate with consumers think in a very fickle world that we live on. I'm going to start with you, Milena. Not just IKEA, because you guys are doing, I'm Swedish, I'm also kind of love IKEA a lot.
I actually try not to talk a lot about IKEA when I was doing my speech.
No, it's hard not to when you represent a company that has done this for so many years. But talk a little bit about IKEA and how you're looking at the next 18 months, but also if there are other advertisers that inspire you and that you think are doing things right.
I think it all comes back to the trust that you were talking about and the authenticity, you know. I think there's brands that are now looking, okay, now I will look for a purpose and I will re-elaborate my values and I think this is like people, you know, you of course you like to browse through Instagram, but then when you meet a person, you want to know what is really behind, what is the true values, you know? So I think the brands need to do the same journey, and a little bit this conversation I really like, because it is by being consistent, being transparent, by being clear in everything you do, and that you show who you are, what you believe in, and how that is integrated in everything you do. This is how you get to the heart of the people. So I think conversation is it's key. It cannot be one direction anymore. It has to engage, and it has to. I think the brands need to proof point what they say. You know, we all say we have values, yeah, but how do you proof point? You know, I had an interview and I did Richard this morning, and a journalist told me, okay, give me one example, and I was like, okay, you know, we are this week celebrating the Refugee Days, and we are really creating a program with the refugees. We want to impact 500. And he's like, okay. No, but it is like, how do you show up in the everyday? That is, it's very easy to say, I'm sustainable, I want to be sustainable, but it's that coherence and that transparency, I think, that will conquer the hearts of many people.
And not just showing up around the brand, but around the whole concept, right? Yeah. So Emma, you are giving every day advice to brands on how to do that. What advice are you giving? And then again, what are some brands that inspire you or impress you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we did a recent piece of research on how brands are perceived on the platform. We looked at data over 3 years and how global brands are being perceived. And there's a trio of things that if you get right, you really unlock huge opportunity. And that is tone, topics, and communities. And so understanding your tone of voice, like for example, we did this experiment where we took global brands and we blocked out the brand name and we put their tweet in front of people, and we even helped them and gave them like 3 options and asked them to guess the brand, and only 1 in 3 could guess it. So distinctiveness is super critical. And then in terms of topics, like knowing when and how to engage authentically and being brave And it's not about spending, 3 weeks deciding how you're going to position your response. Like, it's about, if you trust your values, if you know your values in your DNA, the answer is obvious because it's what you want to say. And then of course the advice on communities, and this is unlocking who your real audiences are. You're not going to please all of the people all of the time. Some of you are going to love my suit. Some of you think I look like a banana. That's okay. I like my suit. You can't keep everyone happy, but you have to be distinctive and you have to be true to what you are yourself. So having that distinction, leaning into the fact that some people aren't going to like you, and being authentic is key. And just with a nod to my life before Twitter, when I worked with startups and scale-ups, the best advice I ever gave to companies of any size, 1, 2, 3 people, define your values like first. Where's your line? Where are you going to draw the line on who you'll work for, what you care about? What's your red card? Like, what will you tolerate? And once you know your values from the outset, every decision gets easier. There's nothing worse than a company hiring an agency to come in to help you decide what your values are. You should know them. You should know them in your bones and in your DNA, like IKEA does.
Thank you. Anna, so you talked about ownership. I kind of want to hear your perspective on that with these two, other kind of pitches in mind around how you build trust, how you build authenticity, and also kind of maybe, I know you're here not maybe here to talk about your past life, but you built a ton of brands in your past life. Maybe put it in perspective of that as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the ownership, why that interests me is not necessarily what I do as, I was chief brand officer at Banana Republic more recently before my current job, and then Rebecca Minkoff before that, and I was agency side. So I was very much in charge of building brands, and for me, it's about having great content, which doesn't come as a surprise, but it's harder to do than you would think. Second is collaborating with personalities, with people of influence, with other brands who are doing something similar than you. Then having curating culture, connecting with the culture in a way that is at the root of the brand. What made the brand exciting in the first place? What is currently happening in culture, that what made brand unique and exciting can latch onto that, and then just being very close to consumers. That's kind of like the basics. But I mean, in terms of ownership, I do see a gigantic shift, because what we're talking about here is how people buy things, how they relate to things, how they keep things, for how long they keep things, and what do they do with those things afterwards. Like, look what's going on with secondary marketplaces right now, and look how few brands are participating, in a sense that they are like, no, that's thrifting, that's not. Well, you know what, that thrifting is going to save the planet, and it's going to give you pure margin because you have zero production costs. So when you look at like that holistically, look at the brand, at the business at the same time, and having the right teams and understanding how it's going to unfold in time.
That is very interesting. Yeah, the whole that's enough. Like, it gives your product value and more longevity. Is that IKEA's maybe a different? I mean, my IKEA furniture, I
do something we're exploring.
Sell on the black market, exactly.
On that marketplace point is super fascinating, because I think it was, I'm not quite sure how long ago, but it's quite recently that more than 50% of product search is not happening on Google. It's happening on marketplaces. So people are going to the Amazons, the Etsy's, the marketplaces of this world, and the product search is starting there. It's absolutely fascinating, and this is that acceleration of e-commerce that I talked about. And marketplaces are building mini brands in these places, and it's incredible, because communities, whether you are fond of home brewing or crafting, you're finding your community in these marketplaces. And it's a very interesting emergence of how and where people are shopping. But I think the marketplace conversation is fascinating and very, very targeted too.
Yeah, and then social shopping comes to that, because what I was talking about is co-ownership. The group shopping is massive in China already. It's just not massive here yet, but that is a big opportunity. Having live streaming, having entertainment when content comes in, and just basically gamification of shopping, when you have 24 hours to bring 10 people in order to unlock the discount. So apply that to different brands, the premium and luxury brands. You can get a Chanel bag if it's treated as a luxury membership club. So if you buy that bag, you unlock XYZ benefits that are experiential. So it's opening up a new commercial world, the new commerce market that we haven't seen yet here.
That experiential thing is interesting, because when you think about what it was like in lockdown, we couldn't go shopping, and what we kind of forget, and you talked about sharing clothes in high school, like going shopping is fun. Even when you don't buy anything, you hang out with your buddies, or you look at what's, like, it's an experience. And you know, when we were all stuck at home, you needed something and you just clicked to buy it. Like, there's no fun in that. And so that experience, live shopping, which I think is going to hit 452 billion this year in China, which is actually really just infomercials in a new way, but
it's QVC on steroids online.
Exactly.
Yeah, with better looking people.
But it's just us being entertained, and while our guards are down going, yeah, I want that thing.
I think it's interesting because I think a lot of the conversation here this year, and a lot of the conversation in our industry right now is around the metaverse and Web3 and how we're all going to go into these virtual worlds where, in fact, people are thriving like in real life experiences, and builds a whole different, you know, way of kind of going back to the future or back to the past.
That is for sure something that we experience, because we were at the moment a pure online player, so we had no other choice. But then we see that when the consumers can choose, they really want to mix the experience. So it has to be partly experiential and partly online. They don't really want to be fully online anymore. So that's what we're experiencing.
I'm going to ask one final question, and then I'm going to kick it over to the audience because I don't want to dominate this. It's really you guys that are here for this. But well, me too. But so all right. So if you manage, right, you build a brand with purpose. You think through kind of what that product looks like. You have a roadmap for it. You are now going out for the consumers. How do they find you if they don't click on banner ads or online, or like how do you find the right community for you and your ad and your brand?
Okay,
$1 billion question.
That's a hard one.
Well,
you go.
You know, it's like for me it is hard, but it's not a hard one at the same time, because like I am a sociologist by training. I have PhD in sociology, and there is this guy Benedict Anderson who coined this term imagined communities, and this is like temporary communities that are created at similar values and interests and affinities. That's the same thing that happens when we are watching the same Netflix show, Stranger Things, Squid Games, when you're streaming the same music, when we are for a moment like looking at different parts of the same feed. Those are the temporary communities. For me, the challenge for brands is how do you target that temporary community? How does that start looking like some sort of membership program on steroids when you don't have a third-party cookie? When your loyalty programs based on points have evolved, they're not relevant anymore. How do you create that membership that has benefits when you use that iCloud and then one unified customer point of view, and you manage to reach them out through their own taste communities? So it's basically not looking at monolithic group, how do I reach my gigantic mass audience? It's about no, this mass audience is aggregation of niches, and for each of these niches I need to have a value proposition, I have creative, I need to have membership benefits, and that's how I'm going to talk in that targeted manner. And then when I put all of them together, aggregation of marginal gains, I'm going to get the scale that I used to get by buying ads, non-linear TV and so on. So that is how I'm seeing that, especially now with the privacy concerns involved.
That's basically a marketing degree in 60 seconds. That's awesome. I would add to that and say that, have we all heard about the attention economy? So Herbert Simon, smart guy, father of AI, Nobel Prize winner, back in the 60s, said we were living in an attention economy, like way back then. The thing that's in shortest supply is the thing that matters most. And right now we are drowning in a sea of noise. Every meme, every distraction. You're not just competing with your competitors, you're competing with every single noisy bit of everything. And so in order to compete and to connect, you have to cut through the noise, not by making more content, not by churning out more stuff, but by being smart, being subversive, understanding your niches so well and speaking to them authentically. And that's that community piece. Find your tribe. Don't please everyone. Find the people who are going to be your absolute brand ambassadors. Connect, engage, and converse with those people.
What about collaborating with other brands? Like finding sections?
I think that that's definitely part of the recipe, and we need to find people where they are, and we need to stop thinking about, you know, consumer groups that are fixed and monolithic, because they are not anymore. They are mixed, and I think collaboration is partnership is one of the things, you know, because it's when you get to those tribes that have those values in common that you can connect to them. I was just thinking that we've recently done a collaboration with H&M where we are exploring the future together in London. And we are getting so much insights and so much new lovers.
And extra amplification, right? Like
exactly.
On Twitter.
And Adidas with Gucci just dropped last week. Amazing collaboration, allowing them to tap into new audiences. Collaboration is great if it makes sense and if it's like they resonate.
Yeah, that's really the strategic brand renewal. It's not a gimmick collaborations. There's strategic brand renewals because you go and you reach a new audience every time you do that. IKEA by Rebel, IKEA of White. Who is it for? Not your traditional customer, but for the new one. And it's kind of like everyone thinks, oh, it's like a PR thing. It's like, no, it's a brand operating system because that's how you keep yourself young as a brand.
Oh, I love it. Brand operating system. Good one. With that, I'm going to hand over some audience questions that are here. Figure this out. I think I kind of have one for each one of you, actually. I'm going to start with you, Anna. Basically, well, the argument, they want you to go a little further on the argument of the future of ownership.
In what sense further? Let me see. You didn't really land. Can you further? Well, that's not one argument. There are 5 scenarios. So the question about like that, it's not just about individual ownership, where in the current system, everyone owns one thing or 10 things or 100 things. But what I own, then I discard and it goes away. So what I was going with this one is to show that there are multiple scenarios and they're all equally viable in terms of brand strategy and business strategy. Which means if you are, as a brand, you can have your collection and you say, hey, I'm going to market to those people and I'm going to use traditional advertising techniques. There is going to be visual merchandising. There is going to be out of home. There is going to be my Instagram account and so on. I'm going to like say, hey, you need this bag because this bag is going to make you, you know, look beautiful and young and successful. So that is a traditional way of doing things. But why we buy things? Because our friends have them, so why don't we buy with our friends? So we can all have together since we already share taste. Or if a brand says, my latest drop is not a physical product, it's an image. That image has a status symbol because there is only one of them. Bored apes. They're all unique. Just like humans are unique, they're all unique. Some of them have gold fur, less than 1%. They cost the most. Do I need a physical board ape or can I just have an image of that? That's what I was saying. Ownership is different. You can own an image if there is a proof that that it's yours. You don't own a physical product. So the question is for you really to think, how does that change how brands sell their stuff? If you can say, hey, I'm going to market this to a group of friends who cannot afford a Chanel bag, but 5 of them can. So I may charge them more and I'm going to give them a group benefit. And once they can individually buy, they will. So that is one marketing way, group buying. Fractional ownership. I'm going to say, you can get this. This is Otis. Already exists. Pair of sneakers, as I said, or a bag, or a watch. A Rolex watch from 1950s. Okay, so those people, individual owners, collectors, they can buy one. But they can also say, let's 5 of us, pool resources together, this is our investment. The same way that people are investing in S&P companies, you invest in it. But you invest together and you have percentage of ownership. What is innovation? Is that can be absolutely recorded, that percentage of ownership. So the scenarios are very viable and they're impacting the business. So I hope this clarifies it a bit.
I think it surely did. Now over to something completely different. 3D meatball. How do you use that to recruit test?
I love this question, it's fun. And
Maybe also about
Can you recruit my husband to come to IKEA? The bribery of meatballs.
I think this is, we're talking before about the tone of voice and how important it is, and I think between our values, one of them is enthusiasm and being a little bit a happy rebel, and we have always been a little bit of an activist. So this was used in a campaign recently, and you will have in LinkedIn all the information if you want. There has been a campaign to recruit tech people, and there is this war of talent, so we wanted to embrace like the old and the new. So the meatball being one of the icons of IKEA, low price and healthy food, and how do we reinvent a business that has such a long tradition, such a long purpose as we were talking before, but how do we reinvent and make it more transforming into a more modern brand. So it was used to recruit them, and then the invitation was to come and try them. So during the interview, these 3D printed meatballs were also offered to the candidates to test them as part of the process. Make an NFT. Make an NFT or make a next step.
Well, hiring is very hard these days, so if meatballs can help, that's a big part of the process. Final question, I think, for you, Emily. So is click-through rate really a good measurement for the branding effect of display ads? And is there even a future for display based on what you just talked about?
So, is there a future for display advertising? I think if it adapts and if it gets more creative, I think there's a future for everything. It just depends on how innovative you're going to get. But the same old things aren't going to work anymore. So there's normative thinking where you look back year on year and you make decisions about the past, or you make decisions about the future based on the past. That's normative. There's formative thinking where you look at where we are now and you ask yourself, what's possible if we give ourselves permission to ignore everything that we've become accustomed to believing, if we test our assumptions and move into this possibility space? What's truly possible? Now I know with changing privacy laws and GDPR and personalization at scale, everything about this space will change. Like for example, that law of shitty click-through rates that Andrew Chen coined, he looked at email open rates, he looked at banner ads, click-throughs, and he looked at something else. And he was right about almost everything, but email open rates declined steadily, but actually have gone up again because we're getting better at like writing things that are really interesting, engaging in like the inbox is still where we all go to, and I actually think this is the one tactic that's not dead. So I think if we lean into adapting and learning, we can salvage a lot of what's happening around things like display. But you know what? I firmly believe that it's going to be conversational. It's not going to be one way, and display is broadcast. Until that conversation gets interactive, that's where I think the interesting thing is. And you actually asked me about one brand that I thought was super interesting, and it's nothing to do with my job, but I saw Water Bear, which is an incredible OTT platform for like the Netflix for environmental movies, and it's beautiful documentaries and shorts that's interactive, storytelling. I thought that was really powerful, a really powerful use of new technology. That for me was interesting.
My background is in digital advertising, so I found that question fascinating, and I think especially these days, I mean, it is a tricky one, but I mean, it comes back to what we've talked about here: authenticity, purpose, ownership, but also value exchange, right? Like, you're going to click on that ad if you get something for it, or if it speaks to you and it tells a story that you want to hear. Just as like you're going to open the emails. I think maybe display ads need to evolve as well, and it's certainly a product. I think we don't actually have time for any more questions, but I love this conversation. So much fun, super inspired. I hope all of you are too. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.